What's up, everyone? So this evening, on March 21st, I went to an event and we got to hear Pierre Poilievre speak. Pierre recently announced his candidature to run for Prime Minister of Canada. When I first heard the news, I was excited. I've been following Pierre for the last 2 years, especially on social media. He's had a pretty big presence. He's been posting a lot of his clips from speaking at the House of Commons and other committees. He seems to have a pretty conservative financial outlook. He has a really charismatic character and he really speaks out well, and he gives a lot of pushback on the existing government. So a lot of his videos were well done, and he seems pretty funny, and at least he showed that pushback and not just to be a quiet politician going along with the flow, but he did his role and gave opposition, especially in the Department of Finances, which is what his specialty is. So I've been following him a lot, and I've been noticing that a lot of his financial discussions seem to mimic those of present-day Bitcoiners. So as time went on, I noticed more and more that he was speaking a Bitcoiners language. So I began to like Pierre on the economic level, on his financial policies and his financial preaching. He made a lot of sense to me, and as time went on, he was speaking more and more like a Bitcoiner. And then as time went on, I kept sending clips to my friends saying, "Oh, this guy's definitely a Bitcoiner. Look what he's saying. Look what he's preaching." And then once recently, about 2 months ago, I noticed that he retweeted a prominent Bitcoiner. I said, "Oh, okay, now it's confirmed. He is a Bitcoiner." And then even about a month ago, he was on the show of Robert Breedlove, who is a great Bitcoiner, a great evangelist, and speaks like a great Bitcoin philosopher. So that was interesting to see.
I'm really thrilled to hear you guys have been getting a lot of value out of the show. And, likewise to you, you really made a splash in the Bitcoin Twitter universe when you went on a rant about what is money on the floor of Parliament.
Yeah, well, listen, and it was funny because it was around that time I think you were reaching out, and then I realized your show is actually called "What Is Money." I'd watched another show of yours, but basically the speech said a lot of the same things that you're saying, which is that money is a means of transporting value between people and across space and time.
So when I heard Pierre was hosting this event, I figured that I would go for sure, and I'd give a chance for me to try and sneak in a question, firstly about Bitcoin, and secondly, once Pierre announced his candidature for Prime Minister, I was going to post a clip of him that I saw in that speech that he made where he said he was running, and there was one or two phrases that really caught my eye, and I was going to post them. But then I refrained from posting it because I said, "Oh, I don't want to necessarily show that I'm backing or supporting any politician directly, because there's a lot that goes into that, and I wasn't sure on all his stances. I mean, I love where he speaks when he speaks about economics and finance, and I can agree with him for the most part of it. So I practice my Christian faith, and I wasn't too sure where he aligned with that. So then I did a quick search. I'll leave the link in the description. There's a great website. It's called voteprolife.ca, and they sort of show you the voting history of many of the members of Parliament. So I checked that, and he had a bad rating on that, and they go into detail about the numerous votes that they had from a pro-life stance, and he was sadly misaligned with the pro-life movement for many of the votes. So that was disappointing. So I figured this night, if I got the chance to ask him a question, I could ask my Bitcoin question and then ask him about his pro-life views, asking him if he would reconsider his stance. And greatly enough, I was able to do both. So during his speech, it went really well. It was 45 minutes, but like I assumed, the people that would take off a Monday night at 5 p.m., being away from their families for dinner time to go listen to a politician speak, for the most part, are somewhat fans of this politician, or at least know what the politician has to say. So in a way, it's really preaching to the choir. So I was hoping that he wouldn't give a typical political speech and sort of just regurgitate many of the things that we knew. He did a good job. His speech was well delivered. I appreciated a lot of what he said. I'm not sure if I agreed with everything what he said, but at least for for the minimum, it was entertaining, and it was good to see him in person. During the speech, there was no question and answer period, and after the speech, there was no question and answer period. So I was disappointed on that. They offered us the ability to take a picture with him, and I said, okay, maybe I'll sneak in a quick question, and I could just get a one-word answer. I wanted to sneak in both those questions, one about Bitcoin and one about his pro-life views. I was going to sneak them in, hopefully at least get a one-word answer. As we were waiting in line for this opportunity to meet him, I noticed other people, and I chatted with them quickly, and they also wished there was a question and answer period for that same reason, because we know almost all of his stances. So there was nothing really new that we learned there, and some people had some specific questions, some concerns actually that they wanted answers to. So I really would have thought it would be much more productive if they found a way for us to submit our questions perhaps beforehand and have people vote them up so that he could answer maybe the top 5 questions. That probably would have been more productive. He did a good job. He made some jokes. He made us laugh. The mood was light. Good. But people like myself or anyone else that have specific concerns, well, if we're not getting our questions answered, then he didn't really make that much progress. So one gentleman that I was chatting with in line, he was worried about Pierre's picture presence on the WEF website. So he actually got a chance to ask him, and Pierre denied it. He said it was on. He didn't know why it was on, and he has no affiliation with the WEF. So at least he answered that gentleman's question. We're hoping that he gave a truthful answer. Here, I'll roll my clip of my 2 questions.
I have 2 quick questions. You could give a simple yes or no. Your financial policy, does it include anything with a B word?
B.
Bitcoin.
Listen, I believe people should have the freedom to use Bitcoin. I believe it's a decentralized network with no intermediary and no central control, which I think the future is decentralization. I hope people consider that.
Any interest in putting it on Canada's balance sheet?
I don't believe I don't think politicians should decide what central bankers buy. So I don't have any issue with that, but I let people make their own decisions
On a
with their
personal
own money. Yeah.
I appreciate that. Last question. The only thing that would hang me up from giving you my vote is your, I would call it, anti-pro-life stance. Would you consider reviewing those positions?
Well, I'm not anti anything. I'm in favor of freedom of choice. That's my position on all matters. I'm in favor of freedom, and that's what I stand for.
You see there that Pierre said that he appreciates Bitcoin, but more on a personal level. He didn't mention that he has any agenda or any goals to push it for Canada on their balance sheet, and he said that he wasn't going to get involved on that level, which is fine. I mean, I could appreciate that. Like he sort of answered, and same for myself. I'm not in charge of Canada's book, so if they choose not to put on any money into Bitcoin, well, they can live with those consequences, as probably many other countries are going to do so, and Canada will lag behind on that front if Bitcoin does what it's supposed to do. And then we heard his answer to my second question. Look, I was already getting sort of rushed off the stage in that sense, so I couldn't follow up. So I gave him, I feel like, a respectful answer at the end. I said, okay, thank you for your answer. I mean, I disagree with him fully, and it didn't change my mind. I'm not really convinced more. I wouldn't feel more comfortable yet in giving a vote. So he gave his position. If that's his true position, those are his true feelings, then, nothing really I could do about it more at this point, unless I would be able to talk to him more in detail, which I think a topic like that deserves more than, 15 seconds. All in all, I'm glad I went. I'm glad I got to meet him and speak to him. I'm glad he took my 2 questions. Actually, on both fronts, not really the answers that I was hoping for. And I'll continue discerning from my end on both those topics. And I pray that Pierre also thinks about my question. I hope it stuck with him, and I hope he would revisit his stance, especially on the pro-life issues. That's it for me, guys. Peace. Thanks.